Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio with your host, K. William Spencer. This program is geared to help you see what thoughts and or beliefs are holding you back from being your best for yourself and those around you. Your life is only as good as your thoughts. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Now, here's your host. Hello and welcome to the show. This is K. William Spencer, as always your host, and this is Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Today our guest is Tamara Hartley. Very wonderful woman. You're going to really enjoy this woman. She is a personal success coach. She is a syndicated columnist. She is a mother of 4, and she's writing a book. The book is titled Stop Wasting Your Time, and it's not a time management book. She is also in the university going for her doctorate degree. And go figure this, a success coach, mother of 4, writing books, writing syndicated columns, and she's going for her doctorate. The woman knows how to manage her time. She's going for a doctorate degree in industrial organizational psychology. Wow. And the wonderful thing about her, even in our off-air time, is that she teaches from and shares from experiences, personal experiences, not just from learned knowledge. Well, in my book and in my experiences throughout my life, I like to talk to someone that can actually talk from the heart, that can talk from learned experience, something that that person has learned in life and can share it with us, the listeners. So, here we are. Oh, by the way, and she's a personal friend of Les Brown. So, I just had to throw that one in there. So, here we introduce Tamara Hartley. Tamara, I can hear you laughing in the background.
Yes.
How are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is definitely my pleasure. Just reading your email when we got introduced to each other, getting to know you off air before we did the show. Wonderful person that you are. So I know that you're going to be sharing something wonderful with us today. So I'm going to let you get started. Where do you want to start?
It's funny when you talk about, I listened to your introduction. That was really a nice introduction. As I'm listening, I'm like, wow. How am I doing that? I'm doing that too. So sometimes it's funny to hear someone else actually say your list of things. And I was thinking about that while you were saying it. And I'm like, wow, just thinking about the journey that I have taken to this point in my life right now. And I'm like, I am doing a lot of things, but I'm doing the things that I have always wanted to do. And that's important to me. I've been wanting to get a doctorate for a very long time, so I finally made those steps, and I started my program. I'm very excited to be in it. But kind of just thinking about that journey and how I got to this point is just sometimes overwhelming because, all of us have a story and a journey, of course. But, knowing that you can, get from point A to point B and really get there, sometimes you just dream and dream and dream and things never happen. So when you hear that and know that you're doing all the things you set out to do, that's a humbling experience. It really is.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah. So basically, I just, I wanted to talk a little bit about, what I'm doing with the advice column and kind of why I do that. Because I get this question all the time, like, why are you giving advice? What is advice? What are you the expert of? And I think that is so funny. But, I have long been the go-to person for everybody, like in my family, all my friends, coworkers. Everyone always wants to bounce things off of me. And so, I became that go-to person. So I just started to share the love because what I started to do was, instead of giving some, how you hear some things that you don't know what to do with, someone doesn't close the door without opening the window. I mean, things, proverbial things, you have no clue what it means.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick of that, and I started saying, you know what, hey, here's what I did when this happened to me, because a lot of times you find you have been through the very exact things that other people have been through. And when they find you've been through that situation, the whole conversation changes. And so I started just sharing what I've been through in life. And that's really where my advice column came from. I was just sharing my experience. Okay, you've been to that? Oh, you know what? I've been to that. And if I haven't, I know someone who has.
There you go.
So, yeah, so really that's where the whole advice column thing started from. And I really just started, answering questions about kids. People are like, well, you have, what's about this? What about this? I'm like, why do people ask me about kids? And I'm like, oh, I do have 4. And like, they're all in individual stages of development. I mean, I had the teenager at one point. I've had the adolescent, the baby. I mean, they're in several stages of development right now. So I said, I guess I do know a little bit about this.
Uh-huh.
I started sharing from that perspective.
Definitely. Yep. That's the wonderful thing about sharing from experience is the fact that you have been through that. It's not saying that you have the answer for everything, but you have an experience that somebody can relate to. And it's just what you just talked about. It's just people can go, hey, Tamara, what do you think about this? And you go, well, okay, this is my experience in it, and hopefully it will help. And, this is the whole idea of your column. This is the idea of my show. And, it works when people will listen.
Yeah, and I tell people, ultimately, it's your decision what you do. But what I try to do is, one, to give you a different perspective and maybe share maybe if I've been through it or someone else. And that might give you some different resources to look into. But ultimately, that person is still responsible for what choices and decisions they make. I just try to, kind of give them a different, ideal perspective, or definitely some different resources to look into, because that's what it's all about. If I can save someone else some time or some pain that I've experienced, that is definitely what I want to do. I call it cutting down the learning curve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all have to fall down to get back up, and it's just sometimes we need to hear somebody, okay, I keep falling down and doing the same thing all over again. How do I get past this? It's kind of like skipping on a record, if you remember the LPs when we were kids. But yeah. So, okay, let's see. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Okay. And again, coming from that same premise, I wrote a book, and I'm still writing the book, but it is called Stop Wasting Your Time. And what happened was I was actually having a conversation with Les Brown. He is just a hilarious individual. So, he's always asking me these probing questions. And, at the time I was going through kind of a bad divorce situation. And, it had been a long time coming because it was one of those on and off again. We tried, we stopped, we tried, we stopped, that type of thing. And he asked me one day, he says, what made you finally decide to get a divorce after all this time? And I said, you know what? It took me a minute. I just looked. I said, I was just tired of wasting my time. And he got this light bulb over his head like he always does whenever he hears anything. He's so inspired by so many things. And he says, you know what? That would be a good project for you to work on. Stop wasting your time. And, my advice column deals with life, relationships, and career. And so I just took it in a broad sense and said, you know what? Stop wasting your time in your life, relationships, and career. Mm-hmm. And I said, how many people sit and waste their time? For instance, when you talk about me being in my Ph.D. program, I can spend 3 years thinking about going. That's the way we waste our time. We're always waiting for the right time or for everything to be perfect. And that really causes us to waste our time. When you look at relationships, you're waiting on Mr. and Mrs. Right, or, you're putting in more time in a relationship because you've already built up time and you don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
And just in general, we waste our time, and most of it's in our head, and it's us wasting our own time. So that's what this project is all about. Stop wasting your time. How to, recognize when you're wasting your time, how to get over those obstacles causing you to waste your time, and really how to move on. Some people are stuck in the past, wasting their time in the past on things they cannot change. How to really move on with your life, and that's what this whole project is all about.
Mm-hmm. Sounds wonderful. So when do you think you'll be finished with the book?
It is my goal to stop wasting my time and have this book finished.
No, she didn't just say that.
I had to get out my own way and finish this book, and it's going to be early fall. So hopefully, right around September the 1st, it will be ready to be put out there. And like I said, when I say stop wasting my time, let me tell you, when it comes to this book project, and anyone who's an author or has written anything, you know how you are. You're your worst critic. You look at your stuff and you read it and you read it and you start editing and changing. And I said, I have to get out my way, stop wasting my time, and get my product out there.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can always you can re-edit and proofread so much, and then you just go, that's not really what I wanted to say.
Talk yourself out of a project. But let me tell you how I know when I'm doing this to myself. So I'll start reading, I'll print out my documents and start reading, and I'll say, oh, I should have said this, and I continue reading, and I'm like, oh, I did say this. That's when it's time to go ahead and wrap it up.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, you seem to write something like I do. It's just kind of like, okay, I said what I had to say, and okay.
And I am really adamant. I don't like to read books that just go on and on and on. I'm like, get to the meat of why I brought this book. Have you ever read a book that, you start reading, it has this little hook, but you got to get to chapter 17 out of 20 before you can actually realize what the book is about? I'm trying to not waste anyone else's time either. I'm getting to the meat as soon as you open up on page 1.
There you go. And just keep them glued to the book until they're finished, until you're finished. That'll work, yeah. Definitely. All right, tell us a little bit more about your doctorate degree, what you're going for. Take your time. And what made you think about going into a doctorate degree in industrial organizational psychology? That is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but I'm going to help you all out. You can call it IO psychology. That's the shortened term in the industry.
Okay.
But industrial organizational psychology is really about the psychology of employees and fulfillment in the workplace. When you talk about employee retention and just the whole psychology behind training and personal development. And I've always been interested in, psychology. I'm a marketer by trade, my master's in marketing communication. And I've always been interested in how we think and how we choose and make decisions and, the psychology behind advertising and marketing. And I really think that IO psychology was a good fit for me because it goes into, okay, now the personal development piece, which is all about what I do in my coaching business. As a personal success coach, it's all about helping people, fulfill their personal goals and their dreams in life. And so I'm real into personal development and training, and that's what IO is all about. And I would like to get to a point where I am developing assessments and helping people to really figure out what it is they want to do in life and how to get that personal success. So it was just really a natural fit for me as I got into it. And so I have a specialization in coaching psychology with this IO degree.
So you're not trying to become the next Edward Bernays?
No, I am not. And you know what? And it's so funny because most psychologists do a lot of teaching. Uh-huh. I don't even get to teach. I really want to use it in my personal coaching business. Use that expertise and really develop tools that other people can use in the workplace or in their own businesses. I want to develop the tools. So, I'm not interested in teaching or doing any of those kind of things.
Okay, because we don't need any more mind manipulation in our world today. Just thought I'd ask.
No.
Yeah, you remind me of... I told you this once off air. I had a friend who was an industrial psychologist, and he used to do during his interviews. He used to tape or videotape his interviews with people, and he would use that to teach interviewing techniques.
Okay.
So that was kind of an interesting thing. He used to run it by me, and I would surprise the heck out of him. Within a few minutes, I would give him the answers to. But that's another thing altogether. Anyway.
And I will tell you just one of the things in my research of IO, that is a lot of what they do as well. A lot of companies will hire an outside consultant or, IO professionals will work with, your HR people. You know how you go interview for a job or apply online and they give you this long assessment where you have to figure out what your personality is and if you're fitting with the organization.
Yep.
That is really part of that IO culture. So that is an aspect of it. And it's so funny when you look at some of the questions they ask, you're wondering, like, how are they going to really assess me based off of this? But
oh, yeah.
There's science behind it that helps people, maybe it's not foolproof, but it does help bring up some issues.
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, just to draw it out a little bit, let's talk about that just for a moment, because my friend, who he's unfortunately now deceased, he was one heck of a great guy. He suggested long ago, this was back in the, I would say, early 1990s, give or take somewhere around that time, and he suggested that I go work for a company. He says, this is the first time I've ever suggested to anybody they go work for one of my clients. So he says, you would probably enjoy it. They're very upgoing, very supportive company of their employees. So he says, would you be interested? I said, yeah, sounds interesting. He says, well, they do have a psychological test, which I figured, why would you be telling me this unless you were doing psychological testings for them? That's your business. So he says, you have to do a psychological test just to get into the company. Do you mind taking one? I said, no, it's no problem. Let's do it. So I went over, I took the test, and I have a habit, and this is something that I do in my everyday life along with anything else that I do. And I'll greet you, hello, hi, very nice, the cordial side of this. And after a while, what I did was, I'm taking this test and I'm answering stuff, and I get tired of putting up a front, if you know what I mean by that. This is who I want you to see that I am. And
right.
After a while, I just get to a point where I just go, you know something? This is who I am. I'm not a bad person. I don't need to sit up here and put on this glorified look of, oh, this is who I am. Do you like me? I'm such a nice person. No, this is who I am. Do you like me or not? And I did this in a test, and he told me about a month later, and he goes, I was sitting in my office, and I had an intern, psychology intern, in my office going over the test that came in. And the intern calls him, hey, John, this is the guy's first name, you need to see this. He said, yeah, just go ahead and do it. I'll see it later. He said, no, this is your friend. Talking about me. So he goes, okay, what do you have to see? He says, take a look at this. And he says, we could look at the test, and we saw that you were doing just like everybody else, putting your best foot forward. This is what you want to see. And so he says, somewhere about halfway through the test, you just went, the heck with this. This is me. Do you like me? So I said, okay, did I get the job? Well, I already figured I had no. And he said, no, you didn't. I said, yeah, I didn't think so, but that's okay.
Gosh, you raised a really good point, though. What it can tell when someone is answering questions that way, and that says something else about a person. And that's what a lot of assessments are really about. It's kind of like, when people ask you to fill out a resume when you already have your resume. I mean, you already ask you to fill out an application when you've already submitted your resume. You're like, why? And it's because that from an HR standpoint, we can tell a lot about an individual who just fills out the application, your writing style. If you answer things completely, it says something completely different about you. And that's what a lot of those assessments are really about. Mm-hmm. It's how you did the test, not actually, what you said. Well, that's taken into consideration too. But really, it's how you take that test and your performance and how you feel about it, because that anxiety comes out in your test taking. What are they thinking about me? What are they saying about me? A lot of times you can get that in your answer. So that's really key, because that's what the assessment's really about. Mm-hmm. How you handle those types of pressures and things like that.
Oh, yeah. That's just what they found out about me. It's like, after a while, he's just going to go, look, this is me. You like me or you don't. Okay, I really don't care. I'm here to do a job. And they just went, oh, he might just come up and tell us what he thinks about us. So maybe not. Well, I have done that in the past. It's kind of a thing of, and we were having a discussion just recently about this guy. I forget his name, but then again, I don't pay that much attention to all the news that goes on. Who is this guy that used to work with the government and gave this big spiel about, NSA is spying on people and their phone calls and all this kind of stuff? There's a couple of people and I that were having a discussion about that, and I don't know all the details about this guy, and for me, I don't really care, because it's like, it's over and done with. Now we have to deal with what happened since then. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's like when I was in management, people are sitting up here yelling, he did it, and we going, yeah, I always used to yell back, we know who did it, we have to solve the problem now, so let's stop pointing the finger and start solving the problem.
Right.
So, the thing that we were talking about with this guy was whether or not what he did was the right thing. Now, depending on who you listen to, there's people that are yelling and screaming, he should be crucified. Well, their own version of that. And there's other people that are patting him on the back and supporting him. So,
right.
I don't know which way to go on this, and I'm not paying that much attention to it anyway. But the discussion we got into was whether or not he should have done it. And I said, listen, I was in a situation several years ago when I lived in Arizona. I was working for a company. I was the head of my department, but I was the department. So I had a guy that I was working with, this very nice guy, and he was trying to make some changes, positive changes in the company. And he was definitely on the upper management level. And he was my boss. I only answered to him. And he couldn't make the changes. The other management, the general manager, the sales manager, and a few others, they did not want the changes that he was proposing, but they were great changes. And you didn't have to be a real rocket scientist to figure this out. So he decided, since he couldn't get anywhere with it, what he decided to do was he changed his lifestyle. He sold his larger house, moved into a smaller house. He started working with a startup company, and he went into that company pretty much on the same level, but a little bit higher in ranking for this company, just to have the ability to build a company that he really, what he was doing. So he did all this, and he quit. And after he quit, seems like upper management, the other managers that were still there that he was fighting against, just went hog wild. In other words, they had no reins on them, and they started doing really stupid stuff. And after a while, I started seeing this stuff, and I just went, I did basically the same thing. I made my preparations and got out. In the process, I had met one of the senior vice presidents of this corporation. This is an international corporation, and I sent him an email afterwards, and I told him, look, this is what's going on in your company. Here's all the information I have on it, and here's the people you can talk to about it just to go check for yourself. Now, this was, I don't want to say the name of the company, not that I can really remember it anyway, but it was a glass company, and they were wasting about 4 tons of glass a week. Okay. Now you're supposed to be making windows for, walls and doors and everything else, and you're throwing away about 4 tons of it because you just can't figure out how to, cut pieces that, you can use the sheet, so on and so forth. And there's other things that were going on, and I said, listen, I have no vested interest in this. I'm not looking to get my job back. You can go check this on your own. If you find that it's what I tell you, then you do what you feel is right. I still had a friend in the company, and he told me, he says, about 3 weeks later, something like that, he says, what did you do? Who did you talk to? And I said, what are you talking about? He says, they fired the general manager, the sales manager, the factory manager. And I said, really? He says, who did you talk to? I told him what had happened at that point. And he says, well, they cleaned out everybody here. So it's one of those things where what I'm really getting to in this whole story is the fact that you have to make a decision in your own life what you're going to do and why. Why are you doing this? I wasn't doing this for revenge, but there was just people that were working in this place that nobody knew who to talk to and how to get it done. Even my boss, even though he knew this vice president better than I did, he didn't ever tell him about it. And I couldn't quite figure out why, but okay, fine. He just did what he had to do. Maybe it's because he had wife and children, and I didn't have any wife and children. I was divorced at that time, wasn't married, didn't have anybody. So it was like, fine. I'll just do what I feel is right. And it worked out for the company.
And that's funny, and this is not on as wide of a scale or broad of a scale as this, but someone sent me a column one time and asked me, they were uncomfortable lying for their boss. And this was an administrative assistant who basically answered the phone for a CEO of a company and pretty much filtered all of his calls. When his wife called, he did, he didn't want to talk and things like that. So she would just always have to lie about where he was and what he was doing just so he could, thwart those calls. And she was uncomfortable doing that because it went against what she personally believed. She didn't want to lie, not even what people consider the little white lie. So she had to make a conscious decision what her values were and stick to those regardless of how it affected her job. And, in that column, and I gave her that particular advice because really it's up to her. And
Uh-oh, we seem to have lost Tamara. Oh,
I'm sorry,
there you go.
excuse me.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, and it seems like I was saying that it just seems like, we all have to make those personal decisions based upon our values, what we believe in, and where we are. And so this is just a bigger case of that. But, you have your code of ethics, and you have to make that decision based upon where you are.
Definitely. This isn't the only time I've ever done anything like that, and it's all been based on the same thing. It's just, okay, is it just something that's against me, or is it something that's affecting many people?
Many people,
When it starts affecting many people, that's when I take, if you want to call it, I don't want to get into a point where people think it's a self-righteous role, but I think it's a righteous role to stand up, not for something that's just for yourself, but for other people, because other people are suffering, but they don't know how to speak up for themselves.
Or don't even know that they're being wronged.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you do when you see it? This is that point where you have to make that decision in your life, and I see where you're coming from with your column and with your industrial psychology. It's in the workplace. What do you do when it sees that it's affecting many people? Do you let it continue to perpetuate itself, or do you actually stand up and go, enough is enough is enough? Now I have to do something, even if I have to be the one who is sacrificed in the process of getting it changed.
Believe it or not, I believe most people feel like that they will be the sacrificial, lamb, so to speak, because it gets to a point where we do have a larger responsibility. It's almost like, I know the doctors actually take an oath, but, we have a personal oath within ourselves, and it bothers a lot of people, and a lot of people have to stand up and speak out. And I think majority of people really do feel like that, and they will take action and will do things, especially when it's for what they consider the greater good. I think a lot of us will take that action, and regardless of what happens to us in the process, that we'll step out there and do that for the greater good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Tamara, hold on for just a moment. We're going to take that commercial break, and we'll be right back. So everybody, please pay attention to the commercial, but also return. We have more to go with Tamara Hartley. She's going to tell us about what she was doing before and what was the transition that took her into the life that she's in now. Not to say that she is not finished growing. She's still going at it, people. So be right back. Stay tuned.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com, and you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria.
Hi, this is Kate Williams Spencer of Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Come and join us every Tuesday and Thursday for enlightening, humorous, and intriguing conversations with my guest, or just a monologue of thoughts that I share, all to help you look at life and your choices differently. For more information, go to YTYRradio.tk. That's YTYRradio.tk. Hi, and we're back. Thanks for being here with us. Our guest again is Tamara Hartley. And during the break, we were talking just a little bit. And, we covered everything else that she is doing, but we didn't ask her what she is doing right now. What is your current position? What do you do for a living right now, Tamara?
I am the Director of Operations and Creative Services for a publishing company. We publish Who's Who directories across the country, so it's a national publishing company, and I manage the corporate office.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
it's really...
I'm sorry, you were saying that you were inspired by what you're doing there to continue on with what your plans are in the future. Tell us how that works.
Sure, absolutely. I've been with the company since around 2006, and we publish these Who's Who directories in 27 markets, but really what we do is we document and we celebrate achievement. So our books are the good news. You can hear a lot of bad news out there, but our books are the good news. So what we do is we go from city to city, And we talk to individuals, we interview individuals, we talk to them about their successes, about how they've gotten to where they are, and just kind of how they've overcome obstacles in their life to achieve personal success. And so that triggered me. I've been celebrating this achievement for many years now, and I kind of see commonalities of people who are successful and patterns of success. And so I wanted to expand upon that in my personal business and, take that and help other people be successful as well. But what we do is we have directories. They're called Who's Who in Black Columbus, Who's Who in Latino Columbus, and so forth across the country, L.A., Detroit, Houston, Dallas. And we go into these markets and we just celebrate people who are doing great things in their community. And I know that sounds kind of cheesy, like we just go around celebrating great news, but we really do. We really do.
No, actually, I know about the company. Believe it or not, somebody approached me from your company several years ago just to be a part of that. I didn't get into it. Matter of fact, I've had a few acknowledgments in my lifetime, which I really couldn't figure out because I never thought that I was doing all that much in my life. But people seem to get around about that news. So, I don't know. But yes, I do definitely agree that is a definite. I have never worked there. I've never met anybody really from the company other than just over the phone. And now you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, and our company is a little bit different as well because there are quite a few Who's Who brands out there, but a lot of them you have to pay memberships and do different things to be included in that book or be acknowledged in that book. But what we do is there is no fee for inclusion. We actually go into these communities, find the good news, and highlight it. So we'll pick maybe 20 people to tell expanded stories on, and then the back of the book is full of bios and photos of people so you can see who's doing what, how they got there. And my favorite section is the entrepreneur section. I love to just see the creative things that people come up with as their company, and the kind of products and services they provide. It's so inspiring, but really the books are so inspiring, but I just think it's a difference when you're not paying for the inclusion. Someone is either highlighting you or nominating you. That makes a big difference, and it makes it kind of a greater acknowledgement for someone to nominate you or to just do a great feature on you because of the good things you're doing. So that's kind of the difference between a company that I work for and other Who's Who brands. But it's really just an uplifting business, which, again, inspired me to, when I say a personal success coach, I'm talking to, some of them are well-known celebrities, the corporate brass is what we call them, your CEOs and presidents of Fortune 500 companies. We really get an opportunity to talk to these people personally and to meet them personally. And once our books are done, we actually go to every city and we have what we call an unveiling ceremony where we bring out your mayors and your governors and just everyone in the city comes out to celebrate those people and to see what the new book for that year looks like. So you actually get an opportunity to meet and greet and touch these folks. And it is just a wonderful opportunity and a great platform.
Wow, that is cool. So let me ask you, do you guys have a website where if, say, somebody is listening and they're saying, I know somebody is really cool and it would be a nice thing for you guys to check them out, do you have a website for people to look into?
Yes, our corporate website is, and I'll say it and then spell it, it's whoswhopublishing.com, WHOSWHO publishing.com. And you can go on there, see all of our products, all of our markets that we're in. There are submission guidelines, and if you want to nominate someone, it definitely tells you how to do that. Or you can just sign up to get our e-blast, to get all of our mailing information, because we do have what we call our digital weekly, and we send out good news about people across the country every week.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for that part. We really didn't even talk about that before.
Yeah.
So just in the effort of time, well, not that we're really actually rushed for it. I'm sorry, me and my craziness. Tell us about, let's go back into that slingshot effect. What were you doing before you got that point of, let's stop wasting my time? I know that was for the divorce, but what were you doing in your own personal life that got you to change? I mean, one is you can start with the smallest or the largest change or something in between and just go, I'm sitting here and I'm doing this and I want to do something different. And what was that transition about?
I think my oldest daughter was in college at the time. She's 23. she was just in college and about to start on her journey. And I just really got to thinking about, where I was and what I wanted to do with my life, my dreams when I was little and what I wanted to do. And I said, I really cannot wait till all of my children grow up before I start really living my life. That will not be a fun thing for them or me. And I said, there are some personal endeavors I want to embark upon. And at that time, it was probably around 2009. I said, you know what? I need to live out my passion and do what I love to do. I love my job because I think I do a good job. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. I think I do a great job that's rewarding by what we do, but there were still just some personal passions that I have that I said, you know what? I need to start doing what I want to do. And so I just started putting myself out there and forming my own company and getting out there. And, a lot of times people think people make these drastic decisions because it's just so negative. I got to get out of here. I can't take it no more. I hate it. I don't like the people. I don't like my coworkers. And I don't have that experience at all. It's really, that passion in me that's driving me to do other things and different things. And sometimes we have to make choices based upon that. Have you ever had to make a choice between two good things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and really it comes down to what my passion is. Now, I did go through, some things in my personal life with the divorce, and of course that pushed me forward too, because as a mother of four, I was dependent upon a married situation. That's what, two people working. Mm-hmm. And so when that happened and it dissolved, I did have to think of other things like, wow, can I take care of myself? Can I take care of my family? So all of that stuff pushed me to strike out on my own and start setting up, something for myself that would take care of me, my family, and my children. And it really is just as simple as that. I had the personal stuff going on, and there was nothing wrong with my job, but I had that passion that was just burning in me that says, okay, you need to start doing some things with this. You have a great platform, but you can have a greater platform.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is your transition to do what you're doing now. This is wonderful.
Yeah. And I didn't know anything about anything when it comes to like starting your own business and I didn't know anything. But the good thing about me is that I love the library. I love the internet. And I just started getting out there and finding information and putting things together. I think once I said I was going to do it within like a week or so, I had a website. But I went to the library and got a book to show me how to do a website. I really didn't have the resources to hire and do all these other things. I just started on my own and started fumbling through it and started getting that knowledge that I needed to make it happen.
Let me ask you to do something here real quick, because you just spoke about something and you basically kind of glazed over it, at least from my point of view. Okay. And you're talking about having this desire to do something, and you like to find your answers, in other words, research.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, we were, some friend of mine and I were talking about last week saying, if you copy one person, you're plagiarizing. If you copy a lot of people, it's called research.
I like it.
So you're doing a lot of research, okay? So you're finding your answers. This is fine. This is another part of a conversation that I usually have with other people, and I even have done it even in one of my monologues for my show, is understanding the question, because you have a desire to do something, but if you don't know the question, how are you going to find the answer? It's like you're doing web searches, you're going to the library. I want information on this, but what's the question to get to the answers? Sometimes the question is much more important than the answers. Can you give us some ideas or your own views on that?
I absolutely agree with that. As a coach, it's all about asking the right questions. And a lot of times we don't know what questions to ask ourselves. But what I do believe happens is that, you draw things to you. And I'm going to tell this story, and I tell it all the time, and it sounds like a cheesy story, but this is really what I believe in, because I definitely believe in that power of attraction, and you attracting things and as you're seeking, and you're attracting what you're seeking. I went to the library one day, and I had a stack of books, and I'm known for, the library knows me, I have like 20 books at a time that I check out. And I said, you know what, today I need this one book that is going to change my life. And I said that to myself, and I'm walking through the library, and I go find this book, and I pick it up, and it's talking about, spreading your message, how to get your voice out there. And I was like, wow, this sounds very similar to what, I've been saying to myself. Even though I didn't ask any particular questions, this is what I felt like. I have a message that I want to share with other people. And so I got this book, and I went down to the station and tried to check it out, and it wouldn't check out. And I said, what's wrong? And so I took it to the attendant, and I said, I can't check this book out. And she says, you know why? Because this is not even our book. We don't even own this copy of the book. So I was just like, oh, my gosh, like this book was meant for me. So she says, this is not even a book that's in our library system. She says, you see the book, I see the book. She said, you go ahead and take this book because you want this book. And it is yours because it doesn't belong to us. And I'm telling you, this book has changed my life. It's a book by Brandon Burchard. And I carry this book in my purse. If I grab my purse right now, it's in here. And that's what I'm going to do.
There you go.
But the book is called The Millionaire Messenger. And it's by Brandon Burchard. And this book just says, everyone has a story, everyone has a message, and this is how you start getting your message out there. He starts asking you questions, and I was like, I've never asked myself these questions, so I wrote down all the questions in the book. I typed them up into one document and just started answering the questions, and that really gave me some direction and things I've never thought about of how I wanted to structure what it is I want to do and get my message out there. And that is a true story. I promise you, that book was not owned by the library, and I got it.
There you go. Now, there's so much more I could actually ask about that, and I'm going to try to at least ask a couple of questions relating to that. Now, we've talked about knowing what you want when you go searching for something. It's kind of like, as I tell people, if you don't know the question, how are you going to find the answer? I said, you have a computer? They go, yes. I said, all right, go to Google and say, I want this, and you really don't know what you're looking for. Google's going to give you what you asked for. Nothing. Okay? Yeah. If you know what you're asking for, you put it in and you get an answer, or you get several answers, or several thousand, since Google is that way and everybody wants to be an answer for something. You'll come up with who knows how many answers, but you have to know the question. Because just like looking in a dictionary and you just going, well, I'm looking up this, I want to know a word for, I'm sorry, the dictionary doesn't help you find the word. You have to learn vocabulary. The dictionary will tell you the definition of your vocabulary word. Okay, so the other side of this is people are always talking about, when I used to give seminars back in the 1990s, I used to try to give away information for free, and nobody ever showed up. And the more I charged, the more people showed up. And it's weird because people think that to get information, you have to pay for it. Yes. And here you are, you found a book for you that's priceless. Yeah. And you probably would have paid for it if you had been asked to pay for it, but it was given to you for free. And how many people in your life do you know that would say, oh, it was free, then okay, it probably doesn't have any value?
Yeah, and that's a society problem. We tend to value those things that are more expensive, or, we have to pay for more because it for some kind of reason, adds some kind of credibility. Oh, yes, it must be something because they're charging this. I mean, and sometimes people will not go for the cheaper version of anything because apparently it can't be as good enough because it's just so much cheaper. So, I mean, that's like a view in society when it comes to certain things. And I really don't understand why people are like that. And I give a lot of information away free. I really, really do. I give a lot of information free. Every time I talk with someone, I'm giving them some resources or something. And it's so funny because a lot of times people don't recognize that they're getting free information or appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or actually move forward with it,
Yeah. It's like the internet. There's these things called open source applications that you can put into your computer. And they're just as good, sometimes better than, I use PCs, so they're oftentimes better than what you can get from Microsoft, which charges you for everything.
Yeah.
I
think it becomes a trust factor sometimes because, Microsoft has a big name, so we can trust them. We don't really know who this other little guy is, so it might give my computer a virus. I mean, we come up with all kinds of things to talk ourselves out of a possible opportunity because it's free or, not mainstream.
Yeah. So, Anyway, let's get back to you. Let's slingshot back, because you only started in this particular, well, not decade, because actually we're now in a different decade, but in this millennium, if you want. So
Yes.
what were you doing even before you got into being a mom and you got your master's and all that? Do you have something that, say, for younger people who are just even thinking about going to university, to college, for higher education, who want to be, well, to get themselves out of the situations or lifestyles that they're in? What do you have to
Sure.
offer, or how did you get out of? Well, what was your life like before marriage, children, college, all the rest of that?
And it's funny that you say that, because when you say, what was I doing before I was a mother? Well, I was only 15 before I was a mother. I had my first child when I was actually 16 years old. And so I feel like I've always been a mother and responsible for someone else, because I was 16. I was in the 10th grade. And I was a 4.0 student, so of course no one ever, thought or suspected that I would end up, having a child or anything like that. I had always planned to go to college. My dream was to go to Howard University, and I did go to Howard University, and I took my daughter with me. So one of the things that I definitely always encourage teenagers, young folks who are thinking about what they want to do, is that no matter, what kind of life situation you fall in. Some people are, my parents weren't this. We didn't have money to do this. I didn't grow up in this type of neighborhood. I grew up in what we call the hood.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Linda McKinley, which was, just a regular school. My mother wanted me to go to like this college prep school, and I begged her to please, for once in my life, let me go to school with my friends, because I went to middle school and elementary school at an alternative school, which was more college focused. And so I just begged for one opportunity to go to school with my friends. But it never changed who I was. I always knew I was still going to go to Howard. I didn't know how, but I knew that I was. And so when I had my daughter in 10th grade, I had such a great rapport with the teachers that I kind of came up with my own schedule. Sometimes people get pregnant and they have to go to programs or have to quit school.
Yeah.
Well, I worked out with my teachers that I would come to school on Monday, pick up my work, and bring it back all on Friday. I still maintained my 4.0 GPA, and I did what I wanted to do. I applied to college. I got a full ride to the Ohio State University, which I'm here. It's a great university here. Go Bucks, but I wanted to go to Howard since I was in the 6th grade. So I went to Howard, and I took my daughter with me. I put her in the preschool, and I just kept finding resources and finding ways to make my dream continue to happen. And people are looking at me like, why are you doing all this? Like, I was really doing it for myself and for my daughter. And I just never stopped. And so I just want young people to never stop. If you have a dream, no matter how crazy it sounds, no matter what happens to make it seem like it's being pushed from your reach, you can still do it if you are determined and you really care about yourself. And I was just like, I'm going to do it. And I did it. So, just keep going. But I've always had my daughter. I've always felt like that. I've always had my daughter. When I talk about my daughter that's 23, she was the one that I took with me. And she went to college herself. And so I'm just so proud of that, I wasn't a statistic. I didn't give up on myself. I didn't let people say, you're going to have one child, you're going to have a zillion, you're going to be on welfare, you're going to do this. I did not allow anybody to define me. And people always say, well, what did you have? What was in you that made you like this? And I'm like, I just always knew that I was going to do something. And I knew that I had it in me to do it. And I don't know what that's called, but that's what I had when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never let that go. And even when bad things or unexpected things happen, you still got to push through and know that it might get harder. I'm not saying it was easy for me at Howard with my daughter. But even when it was hard, I was pushing through and doing whatever I had to do. And I worked harder than any student because I had a full-time job going to Howard University. I had a government job at that. I wasn't at McDonald's, not knocking Mickey D's, but I worked at the government, went to school, 18 years old, raising my daughter.
Yeah, well, working in the government and being in Howard was I would say it was fairly easy because Howard University is right there in Washington, D.C.
It is. The proximity was easy, but the proximity was easy, but getting that job and actually going to work full time, carrying a full load, it wasn't as easy, and I didn't have the resources like a lot of kids have when they get to college. I didn't have a car. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So I didn't have like a pocket of money somewhere or a trust fund to help out if things were low. I just kind of really pushed through.
Yeah, I'm listening to this, and you've got me smiling, which means is I really like what I'm hearing here. And let's just kind of go on that just a little bit, because I've heard something from, I guess, after the break that you've been saying. You may have said it before the break, but right now I'm concentrating on what you said after the break, on how you have a determination, and I'm hearing this from a lot of people that I've been interviewing recently. You had a determination, you had a goal in mind, and for some people, such as yourself, you had this goal since an early age. And you put it out there and says, somehow, some way, I'm going to reach my goal. I am going to complete it. And you put the work into it. And what I'm really getting at is you put the work into it, and then there are times, like using the library experience, there are times that, if you will, I'll say it in my own way, the universe complies with you and says, look, I'm going to help you. It's partly there. That's part of your beliefs. That's part of what you are putting your efforts out, and they give you those little trinkets that you value. You went for it, and it's going, hey, here's something a little special for you. Here's something as a gift for you. But people don't think that they have to put in. There's so many people, especially the kids these days, who are saying, it should be given to me. Why should it be given to you? Nobody else got it given to them. Go out and get what you want. That doesn't mean be violent about it and take it and all that kind of stuff. You put the effort into it, it will come to you. And as you just said, it's not something that it's not something that's going to be easy. I mean, if you think about the U.S. Constitution, you're given the right to pursue happiness. It's not guaranteeing that you will have happiness, but you got the right to pursue it. Go for it. Go for it. We're not going to stop you from pursuing it.
And I think people really misunderstand, that thing where it says you got to believe, you can achieve what you can believe. They leave the work part out of that. And some people think all they have to do is sit around and think good thoughts all day and everything's going to come to them. I mean, and that is a large part of it. You have to think good thoughts and be positive and believe you can do it. But that action is so important. And that's another thing about my book, when it's Stop Wasting Your Time. Stop wasting your time sitting around thinking that things are going to knock on your door and actually open up and come to you. You have to go out there and do action, get motivated. You have to knock on doors yourself. The inspired action is what I call it. You're inspired to act, and then you receive things because of that inspired action. No one can sit around and have things handed to them. Some people can. I do believe some people can. and that becomes their crutch. But you really do have to put in some work and put some skin into the game, and that makes the result so much more appreciated, and more, you value it more because you put in that work and you got this. And that just makes you go over to the next level. Okay, let me put in this work and get this. Okay, I got that. Now I'm going to put in some more work and get this. So it's really, to me, inspired action. And you do have to put in some work. Nothing is going to be handed to you. You have to go out there and kind of work for it and put in the effort.
Most definitely. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a personal experience. You and I were talking just before we started the show, and I was telling you about what I was doing yesterday. And yesterday I had 2 interviews that were recorded for publication later on. And I had a pre-interview, and I was doing editing, and some of that editing was just a little bit too much because, unfortunately, I did a disservice to the guest that I had before. I was doing a show, and I was tired as all get out, and it came across in the recording, so I was trying to edit out, and I did edit out most of it was just rambling and this incoherent stuff, and I just went, that's got to go. So unfortunately, that was the reason why that show was delayed in getting uploaded to YouTube. But the point basically is that you have to as you're saying, put your effort out there to get there. And when at the end of the day, well, actually in the beginning of the day and the end of the day, I always give time, and I actually want to increase this to 3 times a day. One of these days I'll get to it. Yeah, I know, procrastination. I'm not wasting my time. I'm actually using my time. I have to stop just long enough to do this. I like to meditate. My thing about meditation for me is not just going into an inner self, but that's my time also to talk with our Creator. And last night I was doing that, and I felt such a, how shall we say, I had a great sense of satisfaction from everything that had happened yesterday. And I was sitting there and I was meditating, and I was just going, thank you. This was one beautiful day and evening. Thank you very much. It's just that sense of satisfaction that you actually got out, whether you work at home like I do, or you get out and do something, and you at the end of the day you go, this was a wonderful day. I got so much accomplished. But if you just sit there, like you're saying, just sitting there and just going, like, sometimes people talk about the secret, you just think there and you manifest it and it comes to you, and you find out it didn't come to you. So you're sitting there now frustrated going, how come my thoughts didn't bring? Well, the idea of the show is your thoughts, your reality. Yes, your thoughts. I want, but what are you doing to get it?
Right.
You can't.
Right. That want or that feeling of manifesting should bring about inspired action.
Exactly. Exactly. Because nobody came and gave me this computer. Nobody gave me this show. I had to go get it.
Yeah, you had the idea, and you had to go out and get the resources you needed to make it happen.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, one interview that I had last night, it was with a 17-year-old girl who, I won't tell everything about her. You can listen to the show. But she's 17 years old, and she says she's still in high school, and she's an aspiring vocalist. And she's actually performing right now. She is an honor roll student. And she's an honor roll student. She performs just about every weekend. And she's doing basically what you did when you had your first child. She's doing her homework, and she's working with the school, and she's still coding her 4.0 average, whatever, and she's getting it done. She is very driven. So it's not just... what I'm trying to tell people right now is that Tamara gives a great example of what she's done, but she's not the only one. She's not the exception to the rule. There are other people out here doing the same thing that Tamara did. Okay?
And, and a lot of times people, and I'm glad you said that, because sometimes people look at it like that. Oh, well, that worked for her, but that would never work for me. We all have the potential to do exactly what it is we're supposed to do. We all have that, we all have a chance. We all can go out and do the same types of things. No one has anything more than anyone else other than maybe more determination or more, that's the only thing I think that makes anybody different. We all have the same opportunities to make things happen in our lives.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that she was talking about in her class, and I'm going to let you come up with something to close on our show because we're coming up to that time. Okay. One of her teachers in her class asked, what do you feel that you need in your life? And one of the things she says was, I need inspiration just to keep going. And she goes, well, inspiration is not a need. And she explained it to her teacher, and she goes, it made the teacher rethink her answer, her response. You mentioned just a little bit ago about the inspiration to get done what you want to get done. How about elaborating on that just a little bit as we close?
I think that that's a really great answer, because that inspired, to be inspired by something is something that just really gives you a little more hope, or it gives you the idea that, I can get there too. And that hope of getting to another level of accomplishing something, that is really what drives me. But it also helps when you have other people, you should do things for yourself, but it also helps when you have other things at stake that help push you and pull you to that inspired action. I definitely agree that you need to be inspired and have something other than yourself to help you get to where you want to be. And sometimes that is, wanting to help other people. I definitely think it has to be bigger than you to propel you to do other things. And I think that when people get to that point, that they'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because you have a greater sense of, helping other people, doing things for other people. And that's when you have a selfish nature, I think that is, that makes your stuff go downhill real quick, and you feel frustrated constantly because you don't feel like you're getting there. Mm-hmm. But when you're trying to help other people and do things to better, like for a greater good, that those resources are pulled to you. And that's what that law of attraction is coming to you, because it's greater than you. It's your contribution to the world. And I think at the end of the day, that is what drives me. I want to make a contribution to others. I'm not saying that I've lived my life, because there's still more for me to do, but I'm always trying to reach back and help people get to where they want to be. It's almost like, they say like a teacher has like the greatest job, because you're teaching other people to be better than you and to go further than you. And that's how I see myself, whether it's with my children, my clients, or anybody that I come into contact with. I'm not threatened by other people's successes and them doing what they want to do in life, because I'm getting an opportunity to do what I want to do in life, and that is to help other people. So I think that inspiration, I would agree with her on that. I definitely think that that's a part of what keeps me going and keeps other people, just pushing forward.
Oh, God, I love listening to this. Tamara, it is time for, unfortunately, because I would love to keep this conversation going for a long time, but we have to end the show today. I definitely thank you for being here, and I give you an open invitation to come back anytime you want, anytime you can. I'm going to leave it with can, because you're a woman that just doesn't know where to stop anyway. 4 children, syndicated column, working on her doctorate, and okay. If you ever have time and you want to be on the show again, please let me know. You always have an open door here.
I appreciate that. And I want to make sure that if anybody, with the advice column, if they want to send questions, I'm always answering people's questions. I answer every question personally. I don't have a staff. I don't do it, commercially. I actually answer your questions. So if you want to send me questions, you can send them to advice@youradviceguru.com. And that is my website, youradviceguru.com. And I will answer all of your questions and put it out there for other people's feedback as well.
Sounds wonderful. Give that address one more time.
It's youradviceguru.com is the website, and you can send your questions to advice@youradviceguru.com.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you, Tamara. And like I said, welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You have a great day.
And you too. And thanks for everybody for being in attendance. And we'll see you next time around. Thank you for joining us here on Your Thoughts, Your Reality Radio. Please make a note to join us again on our next broadcast. For more information, visit our website at www.ytyrradio.tk. That's www.ytyrradio.tk. Our theme music is Soul Controlled by B.O. Crew under a Creative Commons License 3.0. See our website for more information.